monsters! We're at the end of our Snacktacular saga! This is the last video in this series, and in this video we will learn to improve the organization of our project files. We'll silence those pesky compiler warnings, we'll learn to delete files from Firebase Storage, and we'll use that to delete photos from our app. And I will wish you the very best on your continuing coding journey. Let's build! Alright, we're ready for our final lesson in the Snacktacular series. Now make sure that you've done a commit and push before you begin, just in case something goes wrong and you want to return to a working state, and hopefully you've been doing this after each video. It's always a good practice. Now we're going to be fixing some of the layout warnings that Xcode is giving us, and when working with layout issues, it's often most useful to develop on the smallest iPhone size, then test on larger iPhone sizes. So in the main storyboard, I'm going to view as the original iPhone SE. But before we deal with issues in the main storyboard, let's take a look at our file organization. Now, as we finish our project, one thing that you'll notice is if you take a look at our project files, they're all at the root hierarchy in our project Navigator. Now, we've been trying to organize things somewhat. The models, our custom classes are at the top. Then we've got our view controllers. Our custom views, which are the custom table view cells and collection view cells, are under the appropriate view controller. Our utility files, which include our extensions and the API keys file, are at the end. But these files are still all at the same level. If you look at them quickly, it looks like they all run together. It would really be better if we could more logically and clearly group these files in the project Navigator, and this would not only be useful as we develop our projects, but if you have a recognizable place for your files, it'll make it easier to maintain the project or use it as a reference if you return to it, say after months working on other projects. Now, file organization is not only subjective and a matter of personal preference, it's also something that your employer may set as part of their internal programming and development conventions, so expect to see different schemes and be flexible. But just as a starting place, let's organize Snacktacular according to MVC or model view controller thinking. So first, let's group our models together. Now, they're already all adjacent, so I'm going to command click on the 8 files that are our custom classes. Now, these collectively represent the data model, the data structure design, and related methods that are specific to our Snacktacular project. Then I'm going to right click on my selection, and I'm going to select New Group from Selection. And Xcode will create a new group. It's a folder above these files, and it'll place each of these files in that folder. Then I can click on the New Group folder, press return, and rename the folder. I'll call it models. Now the R that you see showing in the project Navigator next to these files means renamed. Technically we haven't renamed the files, we've just moved them to a new folder, but now they're at a new file path. Now remember, you never want to use the Finder to rename or move files or folders. Always do that within Xcode, but this message is part of source control. These changes will be set to Git and GitHub the next time you commit and push. So now let's group what would be considered controllers in MVC, or in iOS this most often represents view controllers. So I'll command click all of my view controllers, including the table view controller. That's 6 of these all together: login view controller, spot list view controller, spot detail view controller, review table view controller, photo view controller, and snack user view controller. Then right-click and select New Group from Selection. Then click that New Group folder and press Return to rename it, and rename this group Controllers. Then we'll do the same with our views. In iOS MVC, we usually consider custom table view cells and custom collection view cells to be classified as views. So I'll command click on Spot Table View Cell, Spot Review Table View Cell, Spot Photo Collection View Cell, and Snack User Table View Cell. Then right-click, New Group from Selection, select the new folder, press Return to rename, and we'll rename this Views. And finally, I'll group my extensions and the API keys file into a group called Utilities. That's these 4 files here. And I like to leave my other files at the top of the hierarchy, not in other folders. It's certainly possible to organize these in different ways. You might see some developers that work with multiple storyboards. We didn't cover that in our series here, but if you did, you could group those together. You'd probably want to put your launch screen in there as well. Again, this is a matter of preference as well as organizational standards, but I think we did a pretty good job, at least as a starting place, and you have an idea of how you can further customize things on your own if you'd like. But now let's head over to our main storyboard, and in order to work with the warnings, I'm going to go ahead and build and run so we can see a list of those compiler warnings. Then I'm going to click on the main storyboard. By the way, if you're eagle-eyed, you might see a jump cut in the video. I had originally put the snack user table view cell in the wrong folder. The demo you watched is totally correct, but you might see that file in a different location if you look at the left-hand side now. That's just because the video from this point forward was before I filmed the correction. Don't worry, everything that we're covering from this point forward is correct, so just ignore that misplaced file. And by the way, if you've misplaced files on your own, you can just physically drag them in the project Navigator to their new location. Just don't do this in the Finder. Now back in the main storyboard, So our app is running without errors, and I'm going to click on the Issues Navigator in the Navigator pane. That's this icon that looks like a yield sign, and it shows all of our warnings. And I can click these one by one. Now there's a chance your warnings are in a different order than mine. You might even see different warnings if you've changed things in your layout or you performed them in a different order than was presented in the videos. But I'm going to go through these. You probably have most, if not all of these warnings the same as I'm seeing them right here. And by watching me go through this, it'll give you a sense of what to look for and how to correct things. So I'm first going to select just below this first warning that says fixed with constraints may cause clipping. And I'm clicking on width equals 175. Now when I select the warning, Xcode will highlight the item that that warning is referring to in the document outline so that we can see it's with one of the constraints for the review date label, and that's inside the review table view controller. Now I'm going to hide the debugger and open the inspectors pane. I actually want the size inspector to be open. That's where most of these changes need to be made. And now this is in the review table view controller. So if I move my storyboard, I can see that view controller, and I can also see that the label associated with this warning is highlighted. See there, this is this one that says posted December 32nd, 2100 inside of it. And this warning occurs because of an issue related to localization. Do you see that at the top? There's a warning in the issue navigator. It says auto layout localization. Now localization refers to converting an app to a language and culture of a market different than the one that it was originally developed for. So we've mentioned localization briefly in earlier videos. This specific warning essentially is saying, hey, in some non-English languages, the words when translated might be much longer, and if you have a fixed width for your label, that text might be clipped. Now in an earlier video, we pointed out that German words are on average about 50% longer than English words. Now, we could do a whole separate series on localization, but that's not usually considered part of an intro course, so we've left that out. But we can begin to think about and address these issues and silence the warning by changing a single setting in the size inspector. So with width equals 175 selected, we can see the relation setting for the width constraint in the size inspector saying equal. Well, we can instead change the relation to greater than or equal to. What that'll do is it'll expand the width if needed if the text is bigger than the width of that label itself. For example, if you have a much longer German phrase in that label, the label will expand and your text won't get clipped. Now once we've made this selection, our warning magically goes away. Nice! Now none of these warnings will break your app. Our app will continue to work fine as developed. We're just silencing warnings, and we're prepping our app so that it'll work better if we do decide to localize it in the future. So now I've got a bunch of identical warnings for different fixed width, labels, and other interface elements in my app. So I'm going to go click on each of these and change them to relation greater than or equal to, one by one. So here's one for the photo button. See, it applies to buttons as well as labels. Then this next one is for the delete button. This one is for the review title static label. This one's for the static label that contains user since. This one's for the static label containing review. This one is for our rating label. This one's for the rating button. And I think that's all of them. Now I'll click this warning that says plain style unsupported in the navigation item, and this is referring to the save bar button item. I can tell because that's what's highlighted in the document outline, and I can also see that it's highlighted on the main storyboard, and it's this one here on the review table view controller. I didn't even know this was an issue or that I made an incorrect selection, but I'll head over to the attributes inspector and I can see bar button item says style is plain, so I'll just select this option and select bordered instead, and the warning goes away. And I can keep going through these warnings, although I see one red ball error warning in the document outline. And again, this doesn't stop the code from compiling, but I'll click this. It's this little red error ball that's just to the right of the snack user view controller scene in the document outline. And this one here is an especially tricky one to deal with because Xcode suggestions don't work. So it's a conflict, and it has to deal with this user since label, the one that says December 32nd, 2100, where we're trying to say that this label can expand, but there's also a missing X constraint. So Xcode doesn't know exactly where to place this on the horizontal axis. So one way to deal with this is to alter the hugging priority that says this label doesn't need to hug or keep its constraints tight. It can expand. So to do this, I'm going to first select this label that says December 32nd, 2100. Then I'll head to the size inspector. I'll scroll down, I'll find content hugging priority, and I'll set the horizontal hugging priority to 1 less. So that's to 250. This means less hugging, more expansion compared to the other interface elements, and the red error goes away. Again, that's a tricky one, but hopefully this helps you sleuth out a solution to silence the error if you encounter it in the future and you want to get rid of it. Next, I'll click this warning that says trailing constraint is missing, which may cause overlapping with other views. And well, actually I see that there's a warning above this. So that's the one that says misplaced views, sort segment control. So why don't I go in order when dealing with the rest of these warnings? So I'll click the yield sign just to the right of that warning. And I'm going to accept Xcode suggestions to update the frames, and so I'll click the Fix Misplacement button. And the rest of the Xcode suggestions that we're going to see here are actually pretty good ones. So I'll click on the next yield sign. This is one for the distance label, and I'm going to click Confirm. These are suggestions for Xcode is wondering if it should expand the left side or the right side. Its guesses are actually pretty good, so confirming these is going to be fine for us. And fixing that got rid of the warning, so that's good. Then I'll click on the other warnings in the issue navigator. I'll click this first yield sign for review date label and confirm to accept Xcode suggestion to use resize leading and fixed trailing constraint, so confirm that. The warning goes away, as well as the one below it. I'll click on the next warning for the photo button in the spot detail view controller. And you can stop to think about each of these, but again, resizing the leading with keeping the trailing fixed is exactly what we want for the photo button. So confirming this is fine. Warning goes away. We got one more warning. It's also related to the plain style of the bar button item that I'm pretty sure we've already fixed. So I think this is just a bug in Xcode. I'm going to go ahead and double check things now on a larger sized iPhone, just to make sure that the user interface elements are rendering fine on different sized devices. So I'm going to open the project navigator. I'm going to click on main storyboard. I'll view as a pro-sized iPhone. And if I scroll around, all of the interface elements look like they are perfectly resizing. So this looks good. You can click on the individual view controllers. If you click on the review table view controller, the little gray area in between the sections, you can scroll up and down. Everything looks like it's resizing. And to check another size, I'm going to go ahead and set my scheme to the pro-sized iPhone and then build and whoop, I'm not going to build and run yet. There's one more thing that we need to do. We haven't dealt with the launch screen. So Apple wants you to have a launch screen in all of your apps. Otherwise, it might actually reject this from App Store submission. So I'm going to click on our launch screen in the project navigator, and I'm just going to add an image view with the Snacktacular logo. So click Library, find Image View, plop it right on the launch screen, constrain it to 0, 0, 0, and 0, all four sides, add 4 constraints. Then under the Attributes Inspector, I'm going to set the image to logo. There's our Snacktacular logo, looking good. And there's one more feature we need to add. The delete button isn't working on the photo view controller. So to handle this, we need to head over to the photo class. And actually, as a shortcut, let's head over to review.swift. We'll grab the delete data method from this class, copy it, return to photo, and paste it in the end just before the closing curly. And this function handles deleting a review document, and deleting a photo document is nearly identical. We'll just modify this class, swapping out review for photo, but then we'll also need to create a separate class that will call from this class that will delete the actual image from Firebase Storage. But first, in the delete data method, we'll change the collection name of this document reference from reviews to photos, and we'll change the print statement for this error. Hopefully you will never see it, but review will be photo in here. And we won't call average update rating. We have no rating to update, so we'll delete this line and the curly below it, but we will keep the completion true call. We definitely need that. Now below this function, we'll add a new delete image function, and we're only going to use this inside of the photo class. So we'll call it from within photo's delete data method that we just wrote. So this will be a private function. We don't need it anyplace else. So we'll say private func delete image, open parens, lowercase spot colon uppercase spot, open and close curlies. Now notice in this class we haven't even put in a completion handler. We're not going to bother checking success and failure. We check success in the delete data function that we just wrote, and if the document is gone, we've deleted it successfully, then there's no way to access this image. So I'm not even going to add a completion handler in this function. First, we'll guard check to see if the spot has a valid document ID, but frankly, if we got this far, we actually know this is true. It's just a bit of safe coding here, so we'll say guard spot.documentID is not equal to empty string, else open and close curly, return in between the curlies, and I'll grab the first part of this error print statement up here with the angry emoji, and I'll paste the angry and error down here, and after that I'll say did not pass a valid spot into delete image. Then below this, here's where we actually do the deletion. First, we'll set up a reference to storage. We'll say let storage equals capital storage dot lowercase storage, open and close parens, and then we'll set up our storage ref. We'll say let storage ref equals storage dot reference, open and close parens, dot child, and in between the parens we have spot dot document ID, dot child, and in between those parens it's document ID, and then the call is simply dot delete. So we'll say storage ref dot delete. There should be an option that's showing up in code completion that has a completion handler. Unfortunately, my Firebase Storage code completion isn't working. I don't know why, but I know what should be in here. It has a completion handler, so I need to put in curlies. Delete passes back an error, so I'll just say lowercase error in, and then I'll put in an if statement. If let error equals error, open and close curlies, else open and close curlies, and in between, if we do have an error, I'm just going to copy the error statement from up here, paste it down below, and then modify it inside so that it says error, could not delete photo, string interp, error dot localize description. And then in the else statement, I'll just say print Photo successfully deleted. And I'll put a little trash can emoji in the front. Now we need to call this delete image function, and we're going to do that if we have successfully deleted our photo document. So that's in the else clause up here inside of delete data. We just say self.deleteImage. There's our function. We pass in lowercase spot, and we're looking good. Oops, let me fix, I misspelled print down here. So now let's head over to photoviewcontroller.swift, where we can call this from inside of delete button pressed. Then I'll jump bar down to delete button pressed, and inside, just like the code that we've written when we deleted reviews, we'll call photo.delete, and here's our delete data function, so select that. We'll double click the completion handler, we'll name the bool lowercase success, and then inside we'll say if success open and close curly, that'll be self.leaveViewController, else open and close curlies, and then let's grab the first part of this error print down here, copy it and paste it up here, but change it so that it says print delete unsuccessful. Whoops, and I forgot to pass in lowercase spot in our call to delete data. And let's double check. Yep, we got our launch.storyboard. And now we're ready to build and run. And this should be our final test for our beautiful and robust Snacktacular app. So it looks like I'm still getting this warning error about the frame for the segmented control. So I'm going to click to let Xcode make the change here. And teachable moment, I messed up. Up top, I've got an error that says an internal error occurred. That actually occurred because I tried to make a change while the app was compiling. This actually didn't change the execution of the app in the simulator at all. But just to show you that we're error free, I shut down my Xcode. I opened back up the workspace again. So here comes another error and warning free build and run of our app. This should be the final one for our Snacktacular tutorial. And here is our launch screen. It shows up nicely while the rest of the app is loading, letting us know that things are in process. And here is our app. We're already logged in, so look at Island Creek. If you like seafood, I know you're tempted. Look at that lobster roll. Yum! And let's check a review. Brunch, gotta try it. Let's go back. Let's take a look at Shake Shack. How about we add something here? Let's add a photo. We'll go to the photo library. I'll select this one. I'll describe it as front of the shack. Save this. It shows up in the collection view. Rate that spot. 5 stars. The chicken sandwiches are underrated. They are delectable. Try one. Save this review. Average rating is updated. Back to all of our spots. Sort by distance. Sort by rating. Check out our user. And back. We don't need to see those guys. Let's do a quick check of the delete button. We'll double check all is working in the console. So here I've got a document for the spot Eastern Standard selected. It has a document ID that starts with 3RonLOK. I see that there are reviews, but not yet any photos collection for this spot. Now I can look over on the console for Firebase Storage. I don't see any folder with that name either, so this guy definitely has no photos. So now back in the app, I'll select Eastern Standard. I'll click on the photo button, select photo library. I'll pick this waterfall image. As TLC would say, I'll describe this as, don't go chasing me. Then click save. Looking good. I'll add another photo. Could be anyone. I'll click this one. What a view. Save that. That's in the collection view as well. Now I'll click on the waterfall in the collection view, and before I click the trash can button in the toolbar, let me refresh my database console. I can see that I've now got a photos collection, 2 documents in here. Let me refresh my storage console. 3RonLOK has a folder, 2 files are inside. Now back in the app, click the trash can. The image goes away in the collection view. Let's return to the database console. I can see the photo document for the photo I deleted is now gone. Nice. Let's refresh that storage console. And the file image I deleted is gone as well, working perfectly. But Swifter, we're at the end of your Snacktacular journey. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed this. I feel privileged to have been a part of your iOS education and your journey to become the code monster you now are. If you've enjoyed this, please do share the series with others, and remember, there is an online companion book with reference materials and additional exercises available. You can find out more about that at Gallagher.com/Swift. There's also information on my Boston College students there too, so if you want to hire any of them, let me know. Now, if you have any other friends who are educators, former professors, if you know other students, entrepreneurs who want to learn how to build apps, folks who want to change careers or skill up in Swift and iOS, I've worked hard and keep working hard on new content, and I would love to reach as many students as possible. So your likes and subscribes on YouTube also help surface the content in search and push the series toward getting broader recommendations. So you indeed have my thanks if you've taken the time to do that. It's a small but very helpful way to help our efforts grow. Now, if you have an app released in the App Store, do let me know so that we can celebrate the work of students who have learned from this project. Do feel free to tweet out a photo of you working on projects related to this series with the hashtag #IOSCodeCrush, and we'll be sure you're in the mix for our weekly My Mac Builds Apps laptop sticker drawing. And with that, stay Swifty, my friends, and keep at it.